I did mention at the top of the program too how there's not enough focus on the Muslim communities. Not all Muslims, we know that intrinsically. So many great contributors to this society that we live in are Muslims, but there are extreme elements of the Muslim communities that are driving a lot of the anti-Israel and anti-Jewish sentiment in this country. We've seen that at protests. We've seen that from hate preachers and the like. And I don't think we've seen enough from Muslim community leaders decrying this behaviour. And have a listen to the Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke now, where he's talking about not just anti-Semitism, but Islamophobia.
Both of them had a spike, and therefore there was a vote in the Parliament where the resolution dealt with both forms of bigotry. All forms of bigotry are unacceptable in Australia. Anti-Semitism is unacceptable and Islamophobia is unacceptable.
I've got to say, Joe, with the notable and tragic and horrific exception of what we saw in Christchurch some years ago, in large part, certainly in this country, what people talk about as Islamophobia just doesn't exist, as Tony Abbott mentioned in his column this morning.
Yeah, look, obviously, you know, all forms of bigotry are to be condemned, but there is something incredibly specific about anti-Semitism that just doesn't seem to apply to other forms of racism. Again, it's accompanied by all sorts of insane conspiracy theories about them, you know, Jews running the world with secret organisations, things like blood libel. I mean, this is something that has been dogging Jewish people since, quite frankly, 2 millennia ago, and they have had no safe homeland to retreat to throughout that time until just after the greatest ever genocide ever perpetrated throughout all of human history. And so I think there is a special obligation we all have to make sure that these sorts of things that have reared their ugly heads constantly in pogroms in Russia, throughout the genocide of Eastern Europe, throughout, the Jews being kicked out of countries in the Middle Ages, the Tudor period, both, Christians often being the worst offenders. There is something incredibly specific and sinister about anti-Semitism that I don't think bears a kind of casual comparison to other forms of discrimination and bias, as bad as they might be.
All right, there's too much bad news around, so I want to get Liz to react to this reassuring news. There is a leader of the free world, and here he is in action.
Cost the banks a lot of money, but it was fair. $35, deal with the overdraft. One of the things that's going on here, they just turned off my, I'm going to go down. I lost the electricity here. But anyway, one of the things we found is that, we also learned something from Donald Trump. He signed checks for people for $7,400 because we passed the plan. And I didn't, stupid.
4 more years.
Liz, he lost his teleprompter, but he kept talking. I don't know what he said, but he kept talking.
He says while his mic works and the lights are still on, I lost my electricity here. That's why
something went out. I'm not sure if it was electricity.
Oh my goodness! Aren't you going to miss these Biden blunders, though? I mean, for almost 4 years, we've been highly entertained by watching the leader of the free world, the commander-in-chief, although we know he hasn't actually been filling that position at all. It's the bureaucrats, faceless, nameless bureaucrats behind him who have been having a field day running America into the ground. But gosh, what are we going to do when we don't have these sleepy Joe Biden clips? Of course, we will have very entertaining Trump clips to play instead. So we're in for another ripper 4 years, but gosh, they're going to look mighty different.
We sure are. I just got to point out quickly, I got some feedback after the last time we talked about Joe that we're being ageist, that I'm picking on him because he's old. No, the point is that half the free world up until about 3 months ago said he could serve another term. They've been spoon-feeding absolute rubbish, and we always said, that's right, sorry, but the bloke's not up to it. There's plenty of people his age and older who have got plenty of marbles left and are as sharp as ever. Sadly, it's not the case with Joe Biden.